Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Cartographers, which is a 2019 flip and write style board game. The game has just been announced as a nominee for the Kennerspiel for 2020, alongside The King's Dilemma and The Crew. So the Kennerspiel is a slightly more advanced version of kind of the most famous board game related award out there. So it's got quite a lot of buzz, it's got a lot of praise, and it's kind of renowned quite unanimously as one of the better flip and write or roll and write style games out there. So this one has quite a cool theme where we are basically map makers, I believe, and we will have a personal sheet with kind of lots of squares on them. Some of the squares are already filled in with ruins or mountains. And basically the setup of the game is going to be 4 different objectives out there, which kind of go hand in hand with 4 different seasons, and in each of these seasons a certain combination of those 4 objectives are going to score. So in round 1 A and B will score, in round 2 I think it's B and C, then C and D, and then D and A. So there's lots of different kind of setups you can do as well. So some of them might say score X amount of points for each column you've got filled, or each row, or each set of houses, or every ruin surrounded by a certain terrain type, because the flow of the game is going to be very simple. You're just going to flip a card from a stack of cards, and that card is going to show basically 1 or 2 things that you can choose to fill in on your board, where it's going to show a shape, basically like kind of a Tetris style shape, with a certain terrain type assigned to it. So you've got, I think it's 3 or 4 different terrain types. You've got the water, you've got grass, you've got houses, and you've got forest as well. So you've got 4 different terrain types there. And you're going to basically, one of these revealed, you are going to basically fill in your sheet and trying to, make a nice spatial puzzle, trying to fill in as many gaps as you can. I'm trying to get or kind of cater your sheet to those scoring criteria, so that, because at the end of each round, you're going to score based on the criteria that's already set up. There are a number of different things to take into consideration as well, because when you surround mountains, you kind of accumulate coins, and the coins give you kind of, points at the end of the round, depending on how many you've ticked off on your sheet. So you can accumulate more and more and more as the game goes on. So something to explore and keep in the back of your mind there. But also some of the sheets have, or some of the cards have these kind of monster tokens or monster icons, where you actually have to take an opponent's sheet and you can draw a certain configuration of shapes with this monster terrain type. And that's going to basically be a way to interact with your opponents, trying to cost them as many points as you can to interact with them that way. And then they've got to kind of work around the way you've put those monsters on their sheet. So a nice little touch there. Obviously the decisions each round are going to be quite interesting, because not only are you trying to cater for what's scoring this round, all the information is very available at the start of the game, so you know in each round what different criteria you're going to score. So not only do you have to worry about now, you have to kind of set yourself up for the future turns, which is a nice touch. Balance of the game is great, because obviously everybody's getting the same sheets or the same cards revealed each time, so everybody's completely singing from the same hymn sheet. There's nobody getting powers that you don't have or anything like that, and everybody's going to take their own approach on how to tackle the game, which is a really nice thing, and always the best player or the most efficient player is going to win every single time. The game mechanisms are very smooth. As I said, just reveal one of those cards, fill in your sheet, and trying to cater to those different criteria. The game takes probably about half an hour to play on average, give or take. But and that feels completely right for me. It doesn't outstay its welcome at all. It has a nice fast flow to it, and you can get through the game pretty quickly without any kind of scope of losing your interest. Uptime as well is really cool, because again, not a lot of time to be subject to analysis paralysis or anything like that, because you know what you need, you know what all the scoring that's up there, and it's not a kind of a brain burnery style game, but you still do have a lot of scope to make sensible and good decisions. There's a lot of different setups that you can do in the game, so the replayability is really good in this one. For example, the player sheets are 2-sided, so you've got the basic sheet where all these squares are kind of available, and you've got the reverse side where a big chunk of the map is already cut out, making things a bit tighter and a bit more difficult to place all your different shapes. There's all the different scoring criteria, and for example, every game you're not going to use all the cards, so every game is going to feel a bit different than the last. So that's a nice touch. And yeah, so lots to think about there. And the player interaction, you know, a lot of the time, or a lot of the criticism these games get, or these roll and write or flip and write games, is that they are so solitaire. You don't really have any interaction with your opponents, which to me isn't a bad thing. But I like the fact that the way that Cartographers has this kind of unique feel to it, where, you know, they've forced player interaction, but in quite a fun way, because, as I said, when those monster cards are revealed, you're going to have to place them on the board or draw them on your opponent's sheet, which is not only going to mess them up in terms of their spatial puzzle, but for every kind of square around those monsters that's not covered, they're going to score negative points. So just as something to throw a spanner in the works, and gives you a bit more of an influence on what the other players are doing, which is really nice. Aesthetically, the game is, you know, it's pretty simple, but it works well. I mean, the player sheets are obviously ones that you draw on, but they have nice kind of, you know, a nice layup and a nice map. And obviously, as you're drawing on the sheet, drawing all the different terrains and the rivers and the houses and stuff, it does really start to develop, and it starts to, you know, look like a little map, which is nice. And also the kind of scoring criteria cards and that they're nicely illustrated. Component quality, no complaints whatsoever, what you'd expect with a roll and write game, so not really much to explore there. And the theme as well, I think this is a really fresh and original approach to a roll and write style game. You know, most of them are pretty abstract in their approach, you know, basically add numbers together and get synergies and combinations and stuff, but this one has that kind of more, I don't know, a more kind of tangible theme to it, where you are, as I said, making these different maps and, you know, watching how the terrains interact with each other. And yeah, so the theme works really well. This is actually part of the role player universe, which I think there's been 2 or 3 games now already in that universe. You've got like the game Role Player itself, which is kind of a Dungeons and Dragons style theme, character creation style thing, and I forget what the other one's called, about the prisons, but you know, this is a part of that. I don't know if that's really relevant, but just something to bear in mind if you like those existing games. This is kind of the third part of the trilogy, I guess. And the setup and teardown time as well is a breeze, because as I said, just give each player their own player sheet and set up those scores, you know, those different scores and the different months. You're good to go. And to explain it as well is very simple, because I think most people understand that kind of spatial Tetris style puzzle idea. The game has a good kind of cadence to it, because obviously as the game goes on, you're trying to fill more of those objectives up, and you're going to score more and more points as the game goes on. But also you're going to be more subject to restrictions as the game develops, because you're going to run out of space. Some of the cards might say you must cover one of these ruins already printed on the board, and keeping those options open can be a problem. So weighing up those decisions is something else to think about. And scalability as well is just fantastic, because as I said, it's one of those bingo style games where everybody's playing at the same time. You're not really waiting for other players at all, which is a really nice touch. And if I had to compare this to anything else, obviously there are so many of these spatial puzzle style games with all these different, you know, Tetris style shapes. You've got your Patchwork, you've got all the Uwe Rosenberg series. There are so many. But something that also struck me as a direct comparison would be Isle of Skye, because of the scoring criteria, where you have those 4 different objectives, and they're going to score in different combinations each round, which is pretty much dead on comparison with Isle of Skye. So, you know, if you do like the games like that, this is something definitely bear in mind. But I can definitely see how this game has been nominated for the Kennish Bill, and personally, I would actually give it. I don't understand why this hasn't been nominated for the normal Spiel des Jahres, because it's not complex at all. I don't think there's anything here that a brand new, you know, a family weight gamer couldn't understand or comprehend. It's very simple. It's very clean. That said, I think it's a really nice put together game. There's you know, enough to think about to keep you engaged. It's a nice kind of, you know, a game that you kind of take ownership of your little board with. It's engaging. It's fast enough to, you know, to use as a filler, but still has enough meat to it to not just be a throwaway style game. Yeah, it's a really nice put together package. Nothing, you know, terribly original here, but as I said, it's just a nice kind of wholesome game, and it's nothing here that's not there, or nothing there that's unnecessarily tacked on. It's very clean. It's said easy to introduce somebody, and it's just a really fun experience. So it does get a good verdict from me, which is a 7 out of 10. I've enjoyed it. I'll happily play this anytime, and I think it's a worthy nomination for the Kennish Bill. And I think it's got a, well, I imagine the crew is probably going to win the game because of that's blown up, but this is more than a worthy nominee. So that's my thoughts on Cartographers, a really solid flip and write style game with a nice spatial puzzle and a really cool theme. So if you have enjoyed the review, please hit like and subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos too. You can also follow me on Instagram or support me on Patreon. I'll put the links below. For everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.